Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of In My Opinion. My name is John,
My name is Lester.
and today we will be talking about something that is a little bit near and dear to me.
Yes.
Near and dear in terms of painful memories, but near and dear regardless.
But before we get in, follow us on Instagram if you haven't at IMO.pod. And
Yeah.
we are episode 35 right now, if I'm not wrong, episode 35. So we have 5 more episodes before the end of season 1. We have a few wonderful guests that we have lined up, so do stay tuned and follow us on follow us on Instagram.
Correct.
Yes.
Do that shit. And let's get on to today's topic.
Yes, let's get on to today's topic. So basically one day I was just scrolling through Google News and I came across this commentary piece on CNA by this wonderful lady called Sherry Singh. So basically the article is commentary, there is no shame in being a tiger parent. And of course that article headline really drew us in because drew me in because on IMO we have criticized the parents and the older generation quite a bit, or rather I mean John. So I was like, you know what, I think John might have something to say about this. So I actually brought this up to John and we decided to do an episode about it. And let me give you a TLDR of the article. I'll link it down in the links below.
Yeah.
But the TLDR is that basically she's basically saying that being a tiger parent, there's nothing wrong with being a tiger parent. Her whole argument stems from the argument that are grades important in life? The answer is yes, that's it. Like there is no way around it. And that there are a lot of things that hinges on a child's academic success. And because of that, she feels the need to push the child to do better, while at the same time, of course, ensuring that the child gets a good balance, a good work-life balance lah. But especially when it comes to exam times, she shouldn't be blamed, or it shouldn't be a problem that these parents are actually trying to push them to do better lah, in that sense. So she essentially said that, you know what, it's okay to be a tiger parent, and in fact, if you're a tiger parent, you probably are like trying to look out for your child. And with that, John, what are your opinions?
Yeah. Okay. Let me just put it out there that I know it's a bit strong, but I'm just gonna say that I'm a victim of this tiger parenting thing. But okay, let me clarify. First things first, I do agree with Sherry. I believe the writer is Sherry.
Yeah,
I do agree with Sherry.
Yeah.
That when tiger parents do tiger parenting things, right? It's usually coming from a place whereby they care where they're actually being trying their best to be good parents, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I do get that, like being a bit more authoritarian, especially during exam periods, there definitely is some benefit.
Yeah.
Right? And even if this benefit is currently lost to the child, right?
Yeah, like I guess the child will not be able to like understand fully, right? Like why they're doing this. Yeah.
Correct. So this is all I would say still on the positive side of things.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But being a tiger parent, my light kind of died, but it's okay. You guys still see me.
Yes.
But wait, that's not quite it. You see, because being a tiger parent entails a whole lot more than just that. And I think one big aspect of it that I always encounter myself, because I analyze myself now, and like basically I identify the type of person that I've become. Right.
Yeah.
All these things give me academic results, true, but the way it is being delivered, right, has made me into someone that believes that always feels guilty for my actions, who always feels that I've done something wrong, and who always feels that my parents are never proud of me.
That's a big problem, right? Especially like within Asian society. I'm sure most of you can relate to that you are like never able to do good.
Yeah, a lot of times it's a very strict and very authoritarian, like you mentioned, like I also mentioned in the article, very strict top-down kind of parental control, which definitely brings in results when it comes to academics.
Yes.
But I think it ends up making a person very poorly adjusted and it makes them like not able to form their own opinions and thoughts when they head into adulthood.
Yes,
You know,
I
so
agree.
much so that people always wonder why, for example, the Asian kids are lost certain independent actions, like no journalistic thinking, not as many entrepreneurial spirits, because those are not the things that are nurtured
Yeah.
by the tiger parent. Maybe entrepreneurial is different, but yeah, those are not the things that were valued by the tiger parent, and that as a result, right, make it very difficult, and it always feels that you can never please your parents. And I tell you, for a child, right, a lot of times that is how they form their identity around the parent-child relationship.
I mean, like what the parents focus on, unfortunately, is also what society, they are basically mirroring what society focus on, right? So I wouldn't put the whole blame on parents. It's also partially like us and what we employers, etc., who defines what a good employee is or what a good worker is. So that's what part of the article was trying to say as well, is like basically she's going at this is a very practical point of view. What's important for my child to succeed is this, and the way I want to go about it is to become a tiger parent. But I would like to say that like we agree with her all the way until she says, so my way is to become a tiger parent.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
agree. We completely understand her train of thought. Like we were like with her all the way until she said, so this is the way I'm going to parent because this is the way it is. Because I think to us, do you feel like it's because we're not parents that we feel like there's a different way to do it? Or is it because you feel like you have gone through a bad way?
Okay, I think this is hard to say, right? Because like on the one hand, having gone through what it's like on the receiving end, I know this is not something I want to subject people to.
Yes.
But on the flip side of things, right, there definitely is success in that kind of systems. And the thing is, I'm not a parent right now, so I can't give that perspective, you know?
Yeah.
So I do like what Alistair, I think what you mentioned was very important here. We do agree that the goal and the objective of parents, of tiger parents, are noble, and in fact they are well placed, because it actually leads to success for your child. Nobody is denying that fact.
Yeah,
you know, absolutely no one is contesting that tiger parenting is like is just bad. You know, no one's saying that.
Yeah.
It's just saying that the method of doing tiger parenting is what is wrong. You see, you want to make your child achieve good results, right? There are many ways to do it. Right? Tiger parenting is one way, and tiger parenting is clearly the preferred way, even though it's the less desirable way for the child.
Yeah.
There's so many ways you can do this, you see. Like, I give you an example. Correct. Maybe for the younger children, you need a little bit more guidance, right? A little bit more of a authoritarian figure. But you don't need to force things down people's throat. And I think that's a very characteristic behavior of tiger parenting, where you force things down people's throat, your child's throat, and the things you force is your idea of what your child should look like. And the thing is, this is very detrimental, because what if, okay, we all know these type of people exist now. What if your child is someone who is just not academically inclined?
Yeah, I mean, there are people.
So
like
if let's say the academically inclined child receives tiger parenting, achieves the result, gets a break, gets a break once in a while when things are good.
Yeah.
But what if this person is someone that cannot excel? He or she catches no breaks. He or she just receives the hell. And this is very damaging. You will lead to very strained relationships, and at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Being a tiger parent, yes, you get your child to get some academic results, but is that truly a win in your book? Some poor relationships between you and your child, and your child potentially not being super well adjusted as he or she goes into adulthood. Yeah. I don't think so. I think there are more cons to that than there are pros.
Yes.
Now, I know some parents are going to give me some self-sacrificial bullshit about how it doesn't matter how my kids think about me if they succeed, but no. This has longer reaching effects than just that kind of noble bullshit that you go on.
Yeah, yeah.
I know that the intention is good, but having to behave like this, right, actually causes a lot more problems for the child in the long term. Because eventually this child is going to become an adult. And there's a very high chance this child is going to become a parent.
Exactly. There you go.
And if this new parent only knew, right, how to be authoritarian with their children, then we are breeding another generation of tiger parents.
Yes,
which will get good academic results, but with a whole bunch more adults that either don't fulfill their full potential or either end up with a lot of other problems that they cannot attribute to anything else. And they don't realize that it could be a result of these kind of things. And sometimes, honestly, it's quite traumatic. Some of these experiences can get quite traumatic. I know some of the boomers will start to comment that, oh, strawberry, what, but hear me out, because a lot of times it's your fault and it's very difficult to hear it like that. It can get very traumatic, especially when the gaslighting and the brainwashing gets very serious.
Yes.
I personally have an experience where my parents were very overbearing for certain things, and one of those things happened to be my management of money.
Oh, okay.
So when I was a child, I'm a very poor money manager. Or even now, I'm not a super good money manager, but like as a child, as a teenager, I was a terrible money manager. So in the vein of tiger parenting, when they believe that a particular aspect is worth investing into without having to explain the rationale to the child kind, that's tiger parenting, right?
Yeah.
They will come down hard on the issue. So for my parent, there was this one incident whereby they transferred me a certain amount of money, and then they told me, say, I cannot touch this money.
Okay.
So I told myself, okay, I want to prove to myself that I can, to manage my money properly. I cannot touch this money. So at the end of the week, because of a simple misunderstanding, my mom thought that I withdrew the money and I used it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So she came down super hard, accusing me of not being able to listen, of being a bad child, of being misbehaving, or poor money manager. Your future is gonna be in jeopardy. We do all this is for your own good, but then you don't even know how to take care of yourself, and then you think you're an adult now. Basically, all the same mantra like shit that tiger parents will preach to their kids. For every aspect that they are stepping into. And as a parent, right, tell me I missed some time. Tell me you don't say this kind of nonsense. So they threaten with a beating, with force and all that kind of thing. And all this while in my head, right, it was so traumatic for me that firstly, I will never forget even now. And secondly, right, at that point of time, I actually began to doubt my reality and sanity a bit, because I was like, the money is in there. In fact, if you go iBanking, you go and open the fucking account, the numbers that didn't change, it's there. Right? I think because of like EasyLink or something, or payment of bill, that it went down, went back up or something like that. Right?
Okay.
And therein was the misunderstanding. And that was so tough because firstly, as someone who is very conditioned by this tiger parenting style, right, I already always feel that I'm wrong or I'm not enough. I haven't done enough. And then being accused of something that I clearly didn't do, I was in a lot of distress, and I didn't know how to
handle
necessarily fight back and to fight for my genuine truth.
How old were you at this time? By this,
I was a teen.
Okay. So you were young, young and impressionable.
I don't know if it was late teens or early teens.
Okay.
But yeah, basically you can think of it as like that. So it was very problematic because I remember that night being the night where I went super crazy. Like I was like I really didn't. It's like you feel like when you're trying to convince tiger parents, right, or something otherwise, that runs counter to what they're thinking. It feels like you are an insane person warded in an insane asylum trying to convince people that you're actually sane.
Yeah.
It gets nowhere, and you actually sound more and more insane.
Yeah.
So I ended up like, it was quite mad, that episode. I took like my penknife and everything, and I started slashing my clothes because I was just, I had a moment where I honestly lost control.
Yeah.
And I was contemplating self-harm because
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just that crazy.
Yeah.
Like you get accused of something that you didn't do, and then you get all the other things that come along with it, like it's for your own good, why you don't know how to behave, why you cannot just be a good person, why you cannot blah blah blah. So basically, because of something and somehow I didn't do it right, I got shot down to hell. And only after this big episode properly like sort of blew over the next day, then I received a very half-hearted apology.
Okay.
And this I hate to say this to you because most kids do not get to experience this, and thankfully not.
Yeah.
But this is what happens when you drive your kids into the corner using tiger parenting.
Yeah.
Just because the example may not be as severe as mine, doesn't mean this is not what is going through your child's head. And do you want that for your child?
Yeah.
No, you don't. And I know for a fact that no parent that dares to tiger parent wants that for their child.
No parents wants this, right? Like whatever they do comes from the bottom of their heart. They are sincerely caring and they want the best for their child. Our appeal to them is maybe reconsider what it is, because while you are trying to do what's best, what you think is best for your child, you might actually inadvertently be like causing a lot of harm that you cannot see.
Yeah.
Especially
because you see, like
emotionally.
for example, like we've been saying all this while, the objective can always be correct, but the delivery can be shit, can be really shit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking. Okay, so I did a quick Google search. For the I'll link some of these studies that I found. So basically, I have this study right now that I see over here. There's authoritarian parenting can lead to depression and other disorders, and this particular article, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, is among Latino children. So basically, they did a specific Latino children like study. So it's not. I don't know how generalizable it is to Asian society. I haven't really dug in deep, but I can imagine that this is a pretty universal thing. It might not be as bad in Asian society because we are more used to it, but I still think that it's still relevant. And there is still a problem.
No, and you must know how like deeply rooted it is in Asian society. That like there is somehow this encouragement from parent to parent to continue this behavior because you are doing it for your kids' own good. And like I'm reinforced that I'm doing it for my kids' own good. When actually it's so bad that it's even rooted in the memes and the jokes of our society, like in Singapore.
Yeah.
Recently, I saw a meme, a very funny one. It was quite funny, but at the same time, quite painfully relatable. That makes me wonder whether it's a good joke, right? Someone did a meme of all the compilation of different countries of the lo-fi girl doing homework.
Oh, yeah.
And the Singaporean one is a girl crying in uniform with a parent holding a cane next to her. And that everyone had a good laugh out of that because everyone like low-key acknowledges, childhood was kind of like that. But why? Why should it be like that?
I mean, I can understand from their point of view, right? Like, I guess from a parent's point of view, during their generation, they probably grew up and the way they grew up was taught them that hard work was the ultimate factor, which goes back to our point where we said in the episode of elitism. They probably made something out of themselves by brute force, by like just doing their best, by they probably had a lot of emotional problems and a lot of problems financially or maybe in their family, but they just brute force their way through and they managed to work the system to where they are right now. So in their hearts, it's like, it has worked for me before. I want you to do the same. And to me, working hard is what you need to do. And unfortunately, most of us at a young age do not have the same discipline that a lot of the children at their age probably did because they really had to work
but at the same time, you think about it, right? I like what you brought up here because it's definitely true. Actually, when it comes to academics, especially to all the STEM studies, right? Very simply, when you put in more practice and more hard work, a lot of times that on its own will reap certain results already. Its own, just purely hard work on its own will reap certain results. After all, it is a STEM study, a STEM subject. The more familiar you are with it, the faster you can act with that information, the more likely you're able to accurately perform in tests. Nobody is saying that is not fact. That is in fact fact.
Yeah,
right?
Correct, yeah.
So, but the thing is, there are so many ways, and one of the things that we forget to do is to treat our children properly when we want to make them to succeed. Like, I give you an example. If you talk about tiger parenting or what, right? What if we flip this conversation a little bit around, and what if your boss treated you as a tiger boss? Right? Would you like that? Firstly. Secondly, would you be motivated to perform or will you be forced to perform?
Yeah, I get what I mean. It's probably
Right?
forced, right? You probably feel like you're being
And then
cornered.
eventually, if you do get promoted,
Yeah,
right, and then you are now somebody else's boss, what will you do?
you do the same because
Of course,
that's all
now,
they know. Right?
no, but of course, now when we hold this thought experiment, it's very easy to be the person that say, "Oh, I will not do the same thing. I'll be kind."
No.
Then why you cannot do to your child?
Okay.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So think about that. So we always like to relate to ourselves when we're in the third person that, oh, I will be the bigger person, I'll be the kinder person, and I'll show them that it can be done. Then why can't you do it to your child?
To be fair, we don't have children, so we can sit here say that we won't do this to our children, but if and when we eventually do, I have no idea what I will be doing. I'm sure John has no idea what he will be doing too.
And this is why I don't want children.
Like
no. I'm very serious about this. But one of the reasons was because firstly, I do not know another way to parent our children.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, as someone who has been through some of the more serious and darker aspects of it, so much so that sometimes I question myself as an adult these days.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm adjusted enough to be a good parent.
Okay. So what are some of the, let's say, okay, so you are uni dropout, right? So what did your parents say to that? Like, was that a huge shitstorm?
Okay, so because that was when I was a bit older, and it was motivated by the passing of my grandfather, I was very much stronger mentally.
Okay.
To be able to push back against any criticism. I was very much motivated, very much hungrier, and very much stronger.
Okay.
In my head.
Okay.
Right. Had that incident not happened, I would have still be under their thumb.
Okay.
Under their thumb. Okay. So nobody say that it's a bad thing to be under their thumb. But the thing is, I was suffering, and I didn't know I was suffering, and I didn't know how to call for help. So for all you know, as somebody like myself who clearly could not perform at tertiary education level of the standard academic route, right? If that didn't happen, I may have become one of the case studies that people talk about mental health.
Yes.
I may have become that. Nobody knows, right?
Yeah.
And I may be exaggerating here, but I'm not trying to downplay mental illness by any means. It's just that that's the kind of dark turn things could have taken if you continue to press your children the way you do.
Yes.
There are definitely ways, okay, to motivate your child to want to succeed. And one of the very easy ways, right, instead of using the very standard negative reinforcement that tiger parents do, one of the very easy ways to show that your child is important and show that your child is cared for is to show that you're in it together. And a lot of times, I think this is one thing that a lot of Asian parents don't know how to do. They only know how to sit there and get ready to beat you when you are wrong.
Yes.
They don't ever encourage you.
That's very important.
They don't ever encourage you. What if they encouraged you and solved the problem with you, and let's say you couldn't get something, and then they say you're gonna have to do this 20 times, and then they sit there and actually do it with you instead of helicopter you. I think there's a lot more value to that because firstly, you understand that this person is an encouragement and not an enemy.
It's like a someone that's there to like support you through battle instead of just like
correct.
Hey,
and the second thing is you know that this person is someone that you have to that will be with you even if you don't succeed.
Yes. I think that's important.
And that one is very important. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like in Asian society, a lot of our self-worth comes from parents. And like there are research that's also shown that actually she said in the article that in Asian society, a lot of the motivation comes from parents. Precisely because our value or what we value in ourselves come from our parents' like acknowledgement. So
correct.
Like while that can be a very powerful tool in motivating someone, I would like to think that we should like be able to transcend above that and use that constructively instead of destructively, which is I would say tiger parenting and like doing threatens and not like acknowledging or giving your child the emotional support that he or she needs.
Yes.
And it might sound like we are talking our ass right now with like all these things, and like we are being very ideal, but actually all of these things are rooted in like psychological research. So like I've actually done psychological mods. I have my notes right here. I am a very hardworking student and I've written down stuff. So basically, there are 4 common parenting like attributes. One of them is called restrictiveness, which is the rules and structure and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Appropriateness, which is how strict are the demands and expectations, how high are the demands and expectations. The communicability, which is the openness and how as open and how expressive they are in communicating their feelings and all that stuff. And last one is warmth and support, which is basically authentic care and concern for the child. So what authoritarian style, which is essentially the tiger mom style, it is high on restrictiveness and high on appropriateness. Appropriateness. So they're very restrictive, they have a lot of rules, and they have very high expectations for their child. But they are low on communicability and low on warmth. So they don't communicate their feelings, they don't communicate anything, and like the communication is not good, and the warmth is also low. So what then is there's obviously the opposite, which is uninvolved, which is basically all of them are low, basically the parents not even there, which is a problem also. And there's also permissive style, which is very popular in like Western cultures, which is basically very low restrictiveness, very low appropriateness, but very high communicability and very high warmth and support. Yeah, so they basically don't expect don't have any rules, don't expect anything, but they are basically like a friend. And it showed that both permissive and authoritarian style are not the best.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, basically we're not asking parents to do a complete 180 because that's not the answer.
Absolutely.
The most effective one is what we call authoritative style, which is basically very high restrictiveness and appropriateness. So whatever the tiger parenting when it comes to like high expectations and high rules, right, is somewhat like rooted in some logic and is good. But what the problem is, authoritative style, what the difference is that they are very high communicability and very high in warmth. And I think that is what's lacking in tiger parents.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I give you an example. In fact, Sherry brought up a good example here about how she does juggle it by letting her child have time to play, right?
Yeah.
Right. To play with what? And to play with who? Is it with you? Clearly no. I hate to say this, but all you parents go and reflect. Go and reflect right now. Go and reflect. Okay? When you say, after I discipline my child, I let them play what? Play with you, meh? Firstly, do they want to? Why? And why not? Secondly, right, do they ever try to? Right? And when they do, what's your reaction? Right?
Yeah.
So this is a big problem. A lot of times parents, right, on top of being tiger parents, they complain of one other very common thing, right? Always stuck on the iPhone, stuck on the iPad, stuck on the electronic device, right? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they associate them with relaxation.
Yeah, and clearly because you are no fun.
I mean, as a parent, the last thing you want them to associate you with is a scolding, is a
You are an
bad time.
enemy.
Yeah, you don't want to become an enemy to them. Like, it's a very tough balance to strike, and I fully understand that whatever we're saying right now is not rooted in any parental experience, but it's still a balance that you have to work towards. Basically, if you're not, I don't know, it's very difficult because like parents have their own problems, right? It's not as if they don't have like work problems, they don't have like shitty colleagues or shitty bosses.
That's true. But the thing is, right, as a parent, right, you shouldn't make these problems a bigger priority than your child. So what if you have these problems? Normal. Every adult has these problems. Then don't be a fucking adult. Don't be a fucking parent.
If you cannot handle it, don't be a parent, essentially.
That's one thing. Okay.
Yeah.
That I know that might come off a little bit harsh and idealistic, but you have to think about it this way. There is a clear-cut reason why a lot of Asian societies, especially in Singapore, a lot of the parents take the tiger parent approach. Because it's efficient, because it's fast, and you don't need to pay it a lot of attention.
It's very tangible.
Right?
You can see the results very
Which
fast.
one is easy? Which one is easier to get a result, right?
Yeah.
A threat or an encouragement?
A threat.
Clearly a threat.
That's what the army works on as well, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like army threatens to punish you, and because of that you fall in line. But the harder thing to do, but the arguably more effective thing to do, is to convince them, get them on your side, get them to hear your side, and then they'll willingly do it like by themselves. They'll be intrinsically motivated. to
So
do something.
you see, therein lies the problem, you see. Because of this lack of time, because of whatever day-to-day chores or whatever day-to-day activities you have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
You choose the efficient method over the nurturing method.
Mm.
And tiger parenting, most of the time, resorts to threats or guilt trips. And
Yeah.
no kid wants to encounter that.
No.
So when you do that, it's a very clear indicator that your life, your problems, and whatever intrinsically is bigger than your child. Oh no, I don't do all this. I need to support my child. You don't understand. You're not a parent. That's why I work so hard. I need to be able to juggle everything. That's some bullshit right there. And that's why I say already, if that is your mindset, don't fucking be a parent. Because that's how much attention a child needs.
It is. I agree.
Right? And and that's the thing. Let me just end off right here by saying, before Lester, you chime in.
Sure.
Let me just end off right here because that's how a lot of Asian parents refuse to acknowledge. They're just like, I wish the best for my kids. Yeah, but clearly you're not a good parent. It's not that's not a good kid. So if you want to be a parent, you must realize that this is how much of a commitment a child is.
Yeah.
So much so that this child and behaving around this child has to be bigger than your own problems, and not everyone can do that. So I want to end off by shouting out to all the parents. We acknowledge that you're doing a good job and doing a hard job and doing a really, really difficult selfless job.
Yes. I agree.
Okay? Nobody doesn't recognize that. But I think one of the things is we have to recognize the silent, I call it the silent screams of children under tiger parents who do not have the maturity and understanding to be able to deliver it to you like this.
Yeah.
Okay? So first thing, they are not mature enough to deliver it to you like this. Secondly, they are not mature enough to make these kind of opinions, make these kind of decisions on their own life.
Correct. Exactly.
Yet.
Yeah.
So as their guiding light, as the only leader that they trust their whole life with, because you are all they know in their whole life, don't you think you owe it to them to guide them as if, ironic to say, as if that's your child?
Yeah.
Think about that the next time you want to resort to tiger parenting. Nobody denies the results. In fact, our society grows so fast, so many scholars, nobody's denying the results. But I think there's a very dark patch that grows with each generation of tiger parents in the mental faculties of children. Not everyone ends up being able to see the bigger picture.
Yeah. And I think John brought up a very good point. Like, I mean, we are now 20-something, John is going into his 30s soon. We are now able to sit on this topic and like be a bit more articulate in what we feel and what we need as people. But children inherently don't really know how they don't really know how to express how they feel other than sad. And that's pretty much it.
They probably don't even know the words mental faculty.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. That's exactly the point. But the problem is, I think a lot of parents, they don't understand that their end goal is always get our child to uni and then from there we pangkang. But I think a lot of parents fail to understand that a lot of the children's habits and thinking and mental like processes, right, is rooted in their childhood. So a lot of things, especially if you guilt trip them, right, they will somehow internalize it. Like, they will not remember where they got this idea from. They will probably never remember it's you, but they will have that within them. And that would mess them up beyond university. Like, forever. Even after, to put it cruelly, after you die, they will still be holding on to it and they're going to pass it on because that is all they know. And that's a problem that I think parents don't really get to see, because once their child kind of becomes more independent, they kind of just like peace out and pangkang, right?
Peace out. My child so big, then they'll go Chinese New Year and say, you see this one like that already, this one like that already.
Yeah, correct. So when the child is able to express their feelings and more, I would say not everyone, but like most of them are not able to actually tell their parents these things that
I tell to my lovely audience and to Alistair that's watching, I tell you all this right now, but just right outside this door, I can never say a single word of that. Firstly, because I can't properly form the thought around them for some reason.
Yeah.
And secondly, I don't know why I think like this.
Yeah.
I always feel like I'm doing something wrong.
There you go. Yeah.
Even with the little things, like for example, if I speak too loudly, Sometimes when I get excited, I speak loudly. Now that I think about it, sometimes I feel like, am I doing something wrong? Or my parents very strict. Sometimes I bring in a drink or a snack.
Yeah.
I am doing something wrong. I can't do that because they don't
They're
like
in the
it.
dining room, right?
And these are all the other things that are associated with that kind of parenting. You
I
know?
agree.
So maybe if we do talk about academics, why do you think there is this very prevalent tale of the Singaporean child hiding their exam papers from their parents?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, that's a big thing, right? Like it's not just some
Why
like,
is
made-up
there a
story.
need for a child to feel guilty about the result they've gotten and to hide it from their parents? Why? Think about that. Because purely, let me give you the answer right now, it's purely because of how you react as parents to failure.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, so last point in my wonderful psychology notes, one part of building positive families or like a psychologically healthy family as they call it is actually the ability to foster instrumental competence in children. Essentially what this means is that by the time they become adults, they should be able to function with confidence and mastery. And while being a tiger parent and you forcing them to study, etc., might end up with the mastery part, the confidence part is where I think is a bit shaky. The children might not be able to go out of society thinking that they are fully themselves or they are fully capable of what they have proven, which is very weird because they proved it really, but they might feel very inadequate and they feel not confident because of the lack of, I guess, warmth that you might give them during their childhood. And even though they will never trace it back to you and they'll probably not be able to articulate it in the first place, unfortunately, a large part of a children's adult life is actually rooted in the parents. Parenting styles have shown to like actually have an effect on the children's attachment styles and the way they talk to other people, the way they socialize, and some of these attachment styles are very unhealthy, and they might cause them to have a lot of mental illnesses and etc. So, like, while obviously the immediate concern is grades and immediate concern is getting into a good secondary school, good JC, good uni, whatever, there's also the long game, right? The long game is for your child to be happy, which I'm very sure everyone wants their child to be happy. That's the long game. You want your child to be happy and you want your child to be able to enter life with a good mental state. And unfortunately, your like authoritarian parenting, right, is not the way to go if you want that. And there's like tons of research already. While you might argue that like what in this article she actually argued that like those people who are in Asia who have gone through authoritarian parenting styles actually get good academic results. That's something that we don't argue with. That one I'm very sure is true.
We don't deny, man.
We don't deny because I mean we are here. But but what we are arguing is that with that good results comes a lot of unpleasant side effects that I'm very sure you also don't mean to have.
Yeah, and I just want to say that it's never too late, to try to undo the effects. And I think what Alastair mentioned also earlier about how authoritative approach is important.
Yeah.
It's a mix, You can always be strict with your kids, but you don't have to be an enemy to your kids. There's a difference. It's a fine line, but there is a difference. Like I give you an example. You can be friends with your boss, right? But when it comes to certain deadlines, he can be strict. He or she can be strict.
Yeah.
And that's fine, isn't it?
That's
and isn't
job,
that
right?
also a good way you wish to be treated? Firstly, the strictness gives you the confidence in this boss.
Yes.
And the niceness during when it's not crunch time makes you want to more personable with this person.
It makes you want to work for them as well, right? Like, because you actually know them as people, you actually respect them as people to begin with. Whatever they are strict about makes more sense to you and you trust them.
Exactly. So celebrate the successes with your kids, right? And then don't just punish your kids. Be with them when they encounter a roadblock, right? The worst thing that a tiger parent can do, okay, is to punish mistakes.
Yes.
Because when you punish a mistake, right, There is no learning.
Mm, mm,
And it's very easy to get frustrated because you care. I understand this.
yeah.
You know, I perfectly understand it so much so that when I try to teach my mom how to use the Grab app, I get impatient.
Yeah.
Fair,
Yeah.
right? I understand
Yeah.
this. But it is your onus as a parent to swallow that impatience and to guide them, because these children know nothing. They know nothing about this world except for you.
I agree. And I mean, parenting is hard, and we understand that parenting is very difficult, as we have said plenty of times in this episode. But I think if you're able to talk to your child and like have a one-on-one conversation with them about what is important to them and what they need as a human being, I'm very sure they will be able to appreciate that. And
Yeah.
I want to say that, like, okay, for me personally, my parents when I was younger were very, very strict, and they were super harsh on me. But I remember towards like the tail end of my secondary school, towards JC, they started easing up. And I feel like when they eased up, that was when I think came more into my own as a human being and as a person. And when I was going through a rough patch, they were there for me and there to support me. And they like, even in university now, even though there's some times where they will like start nagging at me to study because they think that I just do YouTube like 24/7. But I don't. It's just they don't see the other parts. So they always like, hey, must study, must do masters, that kind of thing. But like, you know, after a while, after I talk to them and I'm like, hey, I don't really want to do masters. Like I maybe want to go into media after I graduate. They are actually able to like say, okay, sure, what makes you happy? We just want to make sure that you know what's best for you and that you know what you're doing, like not just be super idealistic. So I think that's while I'm not gonna lie, even though some parts of my parents like interaction with me when I was young really not say traumatized me, but like really left a mark on me. And even to this day, I like still get a bit scared and still remember it not so fondly. Now the times when they actually support me, I'm actually because of the times they support me, I'm super grateful for for them and like where we are in my relationship with my parents. So to the parents who think that like I can no longer change this already, you can definitely
You definitely
change
can. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, but it must come from you. If not, like, you know, as a man who is well into his 20s, about to turn 30, this is a problem that I can no longer approach. I don't think that there is no hope for me. It's more like I feel very defeated by the situation.
You don't know how to approach it. It's like too big of an issue and too abstract of an issue.
As the child, I can't do that because no matter how old I am, I will always be the child.
Yeah.
And you don't want it to reach this stage. And as young children right now, especially if our audience, you know, some people, you're experiencing these kind of things where you start to feel that your relationship with your parents is strained, I encourage you to try to share this with your parents, to talk to them about this, and to maybe sit down to watch this video and ask them to have an open mind.
Yeah.
I am going to say that will put you in a vulnerable space, and if your parent is not as discerning, I hope they listen to this part, and that is don't dismiss this.
Yeah.
You never know whether this is like what I call the silent scream for help that your child might be giving to you. Your silent scream by your child for you to listen instead of tell him or her what to do.
Yeah, I agree.
So don't dismiss and actually use this as a chance to talk and listen. Do less parenting and more listening. And ironically, that leads to better parenting.
Exactly. And with that note, I feel like this is a very nice way to end it, right? I mean, we seem very critical of the parents' generation and the older generation in general, but I assure you that we are cool. We are very.
I know. I always seem to target the older generation or whatever. But no, let me just put it out there. I'm not saying it's the older generation. I'm saying it's all parents, young or old. You all got a duty to do something about that. And okay, like we always say throughout this whole episode, because don't come at us, we're not parents, so maybe we don't know some things that you do know. You know what? Keep your secrets. I don't care. I know I'm a child, and I know how the child has received it. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's why we're trying to share with you how not to give it.
A different point of view, right? Like, I mean, you have your point of view, which is valid, I'm sure, and we have showed that we understand your point of view. now is, I guess, time for you guys to listen to our point of view.
Yeah.
And here's our point of view. And maybe
Actually, low key plug any parents who would like to come on our show to discuss this. We always welcome that. So you can always, DM us on our Instagram.
And IMO the pod. But yes, parents, if you have any opinions, especially if you 100% disagree with us, I would love to hear it in the comments down below. Let's have a conversation. We don't know anything. I'm like 23. Am I 23? I'm 23. I'm 23. Yeah. So like in the grand scheme of things, I'm like a little plebeian. So I don't know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to parenting, but here are my opinions and I would like to hear yours.
Yeah.
And with that, I mean, it's been a great time. Stay safe. See you guys next week. And goodbye.
And share this with your kids and parents and watch together and then chill, man. We're all chill, man.
Watch this at a family dinner. It'll be super tense, but we love you guys.
It'll be super tense, but what if it becomes better? Take that risk.
Take that risk, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, friends.